Mark Fields, the former CEO of Ford, he said you must make over 100 grand to afford a new car today. Are we in a market now that we only cater to the top 30, 40% of income earners in the country? That really is a very small, portion of the pie we're posting out.
Used cars are costing as much as new ones. Limited inventory on dealers' lots. Buyers, they are just getting squeezed completely out of the market. The automotive industry is facing a crisis that leaves consumers frustrated and the dealer scrambling. How did we get here? What is the path forward? On this episode, we are diving headfirst into the eye of the storm with insights from automotive pricing expert. Welcome into Facts Not Feelings. I am your host, Brooke Furniss, and today we are discussing strategies for automotive dealers to thrive amidst the inventory shortages and the affordability issues in the market with the one and only Paul Machin. Don't confuse it with Paul Machin or any other way you want to phrase it. It's Paul Machin because he is the machine, and he is the Director of Strategic Accounts at Black Book. Paul, welcome into the show.
Well, thank you, Brooke, and I really do appreciate you having me. Looking forward to the Q&A sessions that we have here. Some of the sessions I've seen that you've hosted before have been offered incredible insight and intelligence to your community, and hopefully we'll be able to meet that level of standard for them as well.
Oh, I'm going to go on a limb and say that we will. I'm feeling pretty confident with that, Paul. So, Paul, we're going to jump right into this and just get to the meat of this. This is a really big topic. I saw a post recently that you and I were talking about earlier this week, and it was about someone just saying, hey, why didn't no one see this coming? I was like, whoa. People have been talking about this. You're just in the wrong room. Like, we've been talking about this.
Right,
so let's just jump right into this. Used car prices have hit record highs. What key factors have driven this shortage of affordability inventory? And the follow-up to that is, how long will these dynamics persist?
Very deep question, and
we come hard.
I love it. It's a real deep question, but very thought-provoking, because like you, I have a lot of these engaged conversations, especially with long-term GM buddies of mine that are in the business, and they act like, oh my God, I can't believe what happened. I'm like, well, you've not been paying attention. You've been operating business as usual, which I call it the nemesis in the car business, right? Just get up. It's the way we always done it. I'm going to keep doing it the way I've always done it and pray for different outcome. BAU, I call it. It's my acronym. I started my vlogs, A Rising Tide with Black Book Insights over 3 years ago. And my goal has always been to help educate and the dealer community, because I want to reduce the potential failures that we might come into going into the next round of a financial crisis we might have, But most people don't remember, but in 2008, we entered that crisis with 21,600 franchise dealerships. We left that crisis with 16,300. We have just shy of 17,000 today. So we've never fully recovered. Now, some analysts will say, well, no, that's not true. We got 21,000 or 22,000. Well, sure, if I count the franchises per rooftop.
Yep.
So new cars versus used cars, right? So depending on the analyst you're talking to, we lost 7 to 10 million units from the used car factory. I call the used car factories new car sales. I've always called that, right? Some say that if we did not have the supply chain crisis, a chip crisis, and still to this day, you still hear rumors of lack of parts availability on certain types of inventory. 3 years into it, right?
Yep.
That we would have had the last 3 years would have blown away the very best new car sales years ever. But we didn't have the inventory to be able to do that, right? So that's number one. Number two, every new car sold during the last 3 years was sold over MSRP. We all heard those stories. And a good percentage were also sold at extended terms and loaded up with financial products. Number three, most of the 2017 through 2020 used units that were also sold in the last 3 years were often sold for more than what they sold for brand new. Get this, for longer terms than they were financed for brand new, right?
Yep.
So number four, and I've got about 7 things I want to go through here with you. We also had lease penetration, one of the lowest lease penetration years we've had for the last 3 years. Number five, manufacturers pivoted quickly because of the limited availability of new vehicle inventory that they could manufacture. So they cut out fleets and rental car companies. They just cut them out, which meant that those off lease and fleets won't come in the right now. We expected those to be the 0 to 3 year old inventories. We're not getting them now. And so those companies went to the lanes and were buying the 0 to 3, which were roughly back then was 2017 through 2020 model inventory, and bidding up those prices.
Yep.
And the last lease is number 7 is during the government forbearance plans, lenders were given the free rein to offer refinance assistance to millions of Americans to stem that flow of repos. And many of those very same Americans didn't make a payment for several years, but kept the cars since the lenders were trying to avoid the massive negative equity that we are now seeing and hearing. So we expect that we'll have a low repo year until next year. Next year, we think there'll be a surge, but then that's it, just that 1 year. And then it kind of levels out, because realistically, 2.2 million repossessions is the normal for the average year. Still not enough to backfill our shortage of inventory that we need, right? And the last question, I think, was how long do we think this dynamic will persist? I don't have to think, right? I can go back to the data. I have new car sales, used car factory production rates back to 1980. And if I just look at every 5-year cycle, you could see a consistent trend. Good used car factory production, good used car sales. Low used car factory production, low used car sales. It's just a given. Based on our data, on everything we shared above, we are anticipating that there'll be a struggle to find quality 0 to 3 year old units, especially trading them in. I have a dealer buddy of mine just told me that on Saturday, his average negative equity was 15 grand on every trade. And that was a 2021 model. On every 2021, 15 grand upside down. I mean,
I'm surprised it wasn't more.
Yeah.
Given what I've seen.
These are people that are like, oh, I can't continue making this $1,000 plus payment. I just can't do it. Can you help me? And I can get them approved, but they don't have the money down.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right. And I can't get the term they used to get, and I definitely can't get that lower interest rate. So we've got this perfect storm of restrictions and inability to trade and inability to remarket the good quality cars at a fair price that consumers can actually afford. So,
man, there's so much to unpack there, Paul. Because I know there's going to be one of my amazing guests or one of my clients are like, wait, Brooke, we were the one, or there were definitely some that didn't price above market MSRP. And that was strategic. Like, hey, everyone else is, but we're not going to. So they chose that reason. They chose not to do that. So I just want to make that very clear that there are dealers out there. So if anyone's like watching, like, oh, wait, I didn't. I'm like, I know you didn't. You guys are great. I know you didn't. This is, I think, from that, not think the data you're getting, is this all from Black Book? Where are you getting this data?
All Black Book data.
Okay. Awesome.
So just to give you a little bit of background, we have been in business since the mid-50s, and we set out to only report agnostically what we can collect. So we're not owned by any warehouse, any auction company, any like Cox Automotive that owns Kelley Blue Book and Manheim and whatnot. We're not owned by any infrastructure like that. So when we ingest all this auction data, roughly 98% of all auctions in the country, and we also ingest about 98% of all retail listings in this country and track all of these data sets, we can come back and give a very real picture of what was, what is now, and what will be.
Yeah. And I love, like I just want to, before we go on to the next question, there's just so much to unpack what you just said there. I mean, I remember, and I don't know if you and I had met at this point, but this is going back, at least 2021. I mean, and I would have that conversation with my dealers, my clients, and just say, okay, if you choose, you got two options here. You can price above because everybody else says, and yeah, I mean, money's great. Why not? What are you offering for that? Number two, if you don't, okay, that's your other decision as well. And there are pros and cons to both, right? The question I always ask for those that we're going over is, one, how much are you going over? And is it truly to your market, or is it something above that? And number two is, what are you going to do when that car comes back in 3 years or 4 years or however long the term was, and you're now 15 to 20 grand upside down because you wanted to make a quick buck? And I don't want to say a quick buck, because everybody was there was so many people making money, and that's a whole other episode in itself. But knowing that is that, okay, so the car was this, Now I couldn't predict what the market was going to be in 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, whenever, or 84 months, because now it's what we're doing apparently, which is nuts. Don't even get me
That's
started on that.
96 and 120.
Yeah, I just go, man, where did we all of a sudden get to that? And so I just go, what is your game plan for that? And some would be like, oh God, I didn't think about that. And then some are just like, I don't really care. Like, we'll figure it out when we get there. And
Yeah.
so there's so many dominoes have fallen since then. I mean, and you've got, we'll get into it, but so many things in the economy itself that have also stemmed this. I mean, I go back to the inventory or 2008 when everything crashed. I mean, same thing you saw. I was talking to multiple friends about them. Like, this is gonna be another cash for clunkers, more or
Right.
less,
Right. Yeah.
because you've got so much people are buying stuff they cannot afford. They can't afford it, and it's
Mhm.
0% for 72 months. Okay, great, I'm taking it. But if you couldn't buy it when it was that, why does that 4% difference make any difference? It
Right.
doesn't.
That's right.
But they did. So okay, let's jump into the next question here. So I love that the answer to the first one. So I can only imagine what this next one's going to be. So with new car productions, it's also being a little hampered as well. As we all know, there's a lot of external circumstances around that. How should dealers be managing used inventory to take advantage of demand while mitigating risks?
A phenomenal question, and one that I can proudly claim. You can go back, look at my LinkedIn vlog, go to my very, very first vlog that I produced in March of 2020. Was it, April of 2020, when 2 weeks after we all got sent home and we're not allowed out of our house, right? And I started looking at all the data, again, what was, what is, and what will be, and realizing I saw some things that was occurring that I needed to get the message out, and hopefully somebody would bite and start doing things then. So when the market happens today, they don't have to worry about training for it and catching up, right? And so there's several key strategies that I've recommended that I don't want to say removes dependency on the lane, because they're one of my options or one of my best clients, or one of my largest partners out there. But it does reduce the need to go into the shark pit when there's blood in the water with that 0 to 3-year-old car. All right. So my first strategy, I've always said it, and I know of several dealers that are successful at doing this: 100% check writing offers on every service RO. I recently had a buddy of mine I said, look, it's easy to implement. He goes, yeah, maybe easy to implement, not easy to keep it running. Because you're right. Because here's what people miss: people, process, technology, PPT, right? You got to have all three when you want to introduce a new strategy. How well trained are your people? What's the process? And are you adhering to that process? It is the technology supporting all the first two. Number two, I said, create a We Buy Cars portal. Way back then. Why? I ran a CarMax location for almost 5 years, and we bought cars directly from customers that didn't have to buy anything from us. And I used to get bullet holes in my back from my buddies that were GMs, because like, you're stupid. I can't believe you're buying inventory like that. Or I overpaid, but I routinely sold those same vehicles they didn't want to pay the money for profit. Number three, train every single person. And this, I've gotten a lot of crap, a lot of pushback. Train everyone in your dealership from the top down, front to back. Empower them to use a mobile device, whether you use Black Book technology, Black Book data to design proprietary technology, which I highly recommend if you're a dealer group, or you could use one of my numerous Black Book partners and use a standard cookie cutter approach that every other dealer who's using those partners is also using, right? But the key is you have to trust your people. The power to buy no longer belongs to one to three people in an entire organization, right? In each location. The ability for you and I to be out in public, and we happen to overhear so much stressing, because I hear it all the time now. I'd love to be able to, hey, I couldn't help it over here, but I think I might be able to help you. Mind if I take a look at your car and give a little bit of background on myself? I may not make a buy, but I bet you if I do that 10 times, I'll buy 3 or 4. And I do that consistently, especially when I ride in Uber or Lyft. I've helped 4 or 5 Uber drivers sell out of older inventory that, believe it or not, had very low mileage. They were unicorns sitting in these guys' driveways. And when I brought them, they're like, dude, I'm so glad I met you. Thank you for helping me. So that's part 3. Part 4, partner with your local lenders and credit unions, because they have a closer relationship with the community, and they know who's at risk within the community. But they also have the ability to most often use what's called alternative data and behavioral statistics to improve lending requirements, right? So if you can create that relationship with those people, you have an edge in your local community that no other competitor in your community has. But you got to start it. That had to be started 3 years ago to be ready today. Target every owner of a 2013 to 2018 unit and invite them to your service department for a free safety inspection. I know I've had dealers say, "Are you kidding me? I'm maxed out already." I said, "So get second shift. We can get third shift." I did it. So it can be done. And there are technicians who will work will work those hours. But you create a massive ebb and flow of available inventory that you're doing a good service. What's the worst that can happen? You make a friend. The best that can happen is you can get a repair order, because if you partner, again, with one of my other recommendations, is partner with a service finance company like Affirm or PayPal or Recon Finance. These are companies that if a customer doesn't have the money to pay for their repair bill and they have, I don't know, 450, 500 beacon score, they can get up to $5,000 to fix that car. That car becomes, some of the assets. That's money that the dealer didn't have. Number two, make a cash offer. You might get some clunkers that goes to the lane. The other ones you get to keep, right? So there's no downside for this program other than implementing it, right? Rigorously train your people on the new type of near prime and subprime buyers. You and I have talked about this in the past about the K-shaped recovery that they're now admitting we're in. I knew it was going to happen, right? Where the upper arm of a K, right? Let's call that the 650 and above credit scores, and the lower leg, anything 650 or below. What they actually did is they restructured the scorecard. So if you were a 615 pre-pandemic, you were considered prime credit. Now, through no fault of your own, you're now in the lower leg and you're considered near prime.
I want you to repeat that one more time, because I don't know how many people actually, you and I have talked about that, but that is such a key thing right there. Just repeat that one more time.
Sure. Through no fault of your own, pre-pandemic, if your beacon score or credit score was 650, you were considered prime. Now you are considered near prime through the restructuring of the scorecards. Through no fault of your own. You paid your payments, right? Yeah, you had high debt utilization, but you always had that because that's how you were raised. You were raised to be a credit consumer. You were offered all kinds of special rates your whole life. So you managed your whole life around, get paid, pay my credit card bills, get paid, pay my credit card bills, and roll on. That allowed people to live well beyond their means successfully. Yeah. And now they are in the lower leg. Now get that lower leg customer who used to get prime credit offerings. How well are your salespeople, your F&I managers, your desk managers, how ready are they to have those intelligent conversations? And I call those kinds of conversations a consultative conversation, because I got to help this customer get off the shelf. I have to help them understand why they're no longer qualifying for 4%. They're now at 8% or 12% on this used car, or no longer for a tier 1 rate on new. We are short on the training that's needed in every store. I go to every stores I go into, I see failure everywhere about the way I hear their people are engaging with consumers today. So that's rigorous training.
Okay. Amen.
Right? And then the last thing, I call it, you either are a bring it to me dealer or you are a bite me dealer. That's my acronym for bring it to me. A bring it to me dealer is a dealer who has embraced the idea that I want to shop from my kitchen table or on the couch wearing my pajamas and my bunny slippers, right? The pandemic has taught everyone to use virtual shopping. Pre-pandemic, to get my wife to order anything online other than maybe food every now and then was nearly impossible. Now I can't get her to stop, right? People are the same way. They want to buy cars. If you make it easy, they'll buy cars from you, especially if you're going to bring it to them. Bring it to me dealer. Same thing for service. What are you doing to be a bring it to me dealer in service? If you choose not to participate in that concierge environment that consumers are looking for, you are absolutely giving permission to your customers to say, bite me. I will go do business with someone else, right? Yep. So without these types of local market development strategies, a dealer is left with overpaying in the lane, driving up demand, and creating their own affordability crisis, which is what we have now.
It's nuts. Like, I'm just going to say, everyone go back and listen to that versus, like, there's so much to, like I said, to I'll say unpack again here, but there's just so much you just said. There's so much knowledge about on so many levels of what is going on. And this doesn't
Mhm.
just happen overnight. So I want to jump into a little bit about how there's so many potential buyers out right there right now. They're just getting completely priced out of the market. I mean, you and I both know this. Most people, a lot of people are talking about this. But what creative acquisitions or financial strategies do you think could maybe help dealers bring in those customers? And you talked about a little bit of it, but anything else you want to add to that?
Sure. I go back to my fifth strategy, right? Targeting every 2013 through 2018 year model vehicle, right? That is within a 50-mile radius of a dealership. I did one of my blogs where I introduced this. I went in and took a look at my local market, and I did an analysis of how many third-party repair centers were around franchise dealerships. And on average, on Dealer Row, there was enough independent third-party service repair centers that each dealership had 5 that they could compete against, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the attitude is, I'm maxed out. I can't do anymore, right?
Yeah, but there's still more you can. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So get this. There's over 330, well, depending on who you talk to, it's either 300 million or 330 million registered vehicles in operation today. That's the latest data is from Experian. They have a VIO report that I think is phenomenal, very telling. The sweet spot for us is that 2013 through 2018 model. And the reason why it's the sweet spot is because it fits within the affordable pricing strategy, right? We have a whole subset of consumers that are now being bumped down in their affordability index, that they now have to bite the bullet and say, I can't make this $500, $600, $700, $800 payment, but I can do a $300 payment. Do a search on autotrader.com. Search inventory by payment, what's really listed out there, and I guarantee you won't find a whole lot of choice. So if a dealer does that, right, they get potential service revenue, especially if they have a service, like I said, service finance partner. And why it's important to do this, Mark Fields, the former CEO of Ford, he said you must make over 100 grand to afford a new car today. And that's
crazy. That's crazy.
Former CEO. And if you look at the available inventory sitting on dealers' lots and what they're actually producing, average price points on that inventory is staggering, but that's what's getting sold. So are we in a market now that we only cater to the top 30, 40% of income earners in the country? That really is a very small, portion of the pie we're posting out. I posted an article that talked about almost a third of Americans who are making $150,000 or a year or more say they're now living paycheck to paycheck. And I'll send you that link, Brooke, so you can share it with your audience.
Yeah, that right. Will for sure. That I read that. I just go, it's not that it's surprising. I'm like, oh yeah, no, that gets it. I mean, I see some people were living off credit prior, and now everything, that perfect storm of what has happened over the last couple of years. I'm like, well, you're still living off that debt, and well, we're gonna borrow on top of borrow. I'm like, well, what? No, don't. Or people that are looking for cars right now, of course, you get the phone call as well. Like, hey, I'm going to market for a car. Great. What's your car payment right now? It's $400. Great. What's your interest rate? And whatever it may be. And I go, so do you understand? Let me just walk you through kind of what's happening right now. And it's been going on for a while. Yes, prices have come down a little bit, but if you're looking to still get that $400 payment on a new vehicle, this doesn't happen anymore. Like, it is almost impossible to do that. On a used vehicle, that's even difficult. And I've got friends that are trying to refinance. I'm like, okay, once again, what was your credit? What was it? Not your credit. What was your, all the specifics of when the car was purchased, what would that? And if it's this, this, and this, I'm like, okay, here are what the current interest rates are. Here's what you're looking to do. So this is for some reasons, I know you and I've been trying to get on a call here for a little bit, and it's just been, this is a very needed topic. I'm hoping everyone is really listening, and you might be on the one side of the fence that you're like, screw you, Brooke. You don't know what you're talking about. We want to price. Okay, price. That's fine. Just understand you can choose whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you to do one thing or another. That's the reason I started my company was we're a product analysis. I don't care how I can advise. You understand that when you choose something, you don't get to choose your consequences. So when that car comes back in, then you're going to be a little bit of a hurt, to say the least. So
those consumers will remember you did it.
Oh my gosh. That's why you're seeing loyalty just tank on top of everything. I mean, yes, pricing, but there's so many other things like, I could go on and on about this, but let's go with how much control do dealers have compared to the past? And the follow up to that will be, how can they avoid overpricing cars?
Well, I love that question because the dealers have 100% control, but they tend to want to follow the market. Instead of setting and creating the market, they just follow the market. So I get asked all the time, what is the market valuation for inventory? Car, and I was raised, car's worth what it's worth. I don't care what anyone else thinks it's worth. It's worth what it's worth when I sell it. What will my market in my showroom pay for that inventory? And if it's out of alignment, I shouldn't buy that car, right? If it's in alignment, I do everything I can to buy that car. So I think one of the first things that dealers are, and I'm hearing a lot now, is I need to understand what the local retail market strategy is. What's in the market as a whole. I love that, but at the same time, it also reminds me of an inventory provider that came out about 15 years ago, and one of their slogans that they were known, not they, but they became known for, a race to the bottom. On price. Oh, I see what this guy's pricing is used vehicles for, so I got to lower my price. And next thing you know, everyone's lowering the prices. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You price your vehicles according to what your demographics can afford. And I've been saying that for quite a while. What is your average consumer's income, their stability? What is their willingness to pay? What kind of homes do they live in, or apartments or condos? You need to know that level of detail within your glass showroom. What's coming in your glass showroom? If you want to poach from other dealers, you need to know theirs as well. And then you need to have inventory in alignment for that, right? So in my opinion, I think dealers need to start taking some serious write-downs to realign their inventory for what the market will bear. And then they can start selling out. And then they'll start running lean and clean. And then they will become the dictators of what their market will demand, not what the dealer community as a whole is trying to demand. I see a lot of pricing strategies. Well, I heard someone's getting 20% over sticker. I'm going to have 20% or 20% over cost, right? I've seen a lot of that mentality with no real data to back it up. We have data. We can show you how to structure a controlled pricing methodology. One of the first things I think is an inventory walk. When I tell a dealer you need to do a water analysis every Friday morning, that's not more than half the time. It's like, what's that? Especially a new age used car manager right now.
What is that? What is it?
Yeah, lot walk.
I'm sorry. What was that?
Yeah. And I tell them, you need to make those pricing adjustments every 7 days, and sometimes even sooner. If you've got a hard cut, right now we're averaging 45-day chart nationally. Phenomenal. Strike, we were edging over 50 to 55 days. Now we're back down to 45. So we're good. We're good in that respect. But if you want to even be better, you need to analyze your pricing strategies every 7 days minimum and making those adjustments to meet the demands of the marketplace. And there's a whole lot of other detail that goes into that too. We got to unpack.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's too often is we just like, oh, well, I just go to see what cars I have. And while that's great to know for your consumer, how is that on your floor plan? That makes a big difference. That car fluctuates. And right now they're fluctuating so quickly that you got to know what the market actually is to know, okay, I'm priced here, but all my competitors are down here. So what's so different about this car? Or what's so different about our process that we can charge that much more when all the other markets are over here? Or if it's flipped, once again, there's just so many things to go. And not only that is that when you actually look at the process of how a consumer shops, when that lead comes in, you look at 50 leads on the same vehicle. Well, if that's the case, and I just threw that number out there, I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but the point being is that how internally as well do you know that we need to move this car because it's been sitting here for 50 days versus it's been 7 days? Well, what's your process? I mean, I know we're gonna get into this, but the whole thing needs to be evaluated to know, hey, you got we'll say now 100 people inquiring on one VIN, one stock number. That's only potentially going to one person. Maybe 100 of those people can't even qualify for it. So how does the BDC, how does your sales team, how's everyone actually looking to say, okay, well, you didn't sell it. Well, no, you had 100 people going after the same one. And how did you approach that? And then if it does sell, what do you do with those other 99 people? They're still in the market, but now where do you put that? So there's so much to understand of like how the actual inventory works. And so I love this conversation, but I want to go a little bit more on this used segment, is that we've seen that, these large price jumps. Everyone's seen them. Which is more stable, new or used? And of that, have you seen these where have you seen the largest price jumps?
Right now, we're seeing, and as we expected, the 0 to 3 year old units, they are jumping in price again. Now, um, this week with the UAW strike still going on, we saw a softening. We started going up a little bit in the lanes, but now it's kind of flat. And at the same time, we also saw, and I think this is a mistake, we saw remarketers upping their floors to try to take advantage of remember that the shark pit, the feeding frenzy. So they raised their floors. Coincidentally, the buying frenzy is now kind of flat. So the 0 to 3 units, it will always be a struggle. The best way to get the best quality 0 to 3 year old inventory is in your service department.
Amen. Please work that service lane. I'm begging you, work that service lane. Get a process first, but please work that service lane.
100%, like I said, 100% service RO check writing offer. There's no way, no reasons why you can't do it with good technology, good process, and good people in place. There's no way you can't fail at that. I know too many dealers that they haven't been to the auction in 3 years because all they do is buy, and they've created market presence, which is why I started urging dealers to do this 3 years ago. If you did this 3 years ago, you are now known in your community as the dealer to go to, not CarMax, who does it all day long, not Carvana, who's been advertising like crazy, but the local dealer who's been doing this for the last 3 years now has market presence through word of mouth, more powerful than any form of advertising that you could possibly do. This, as I said, the second set of categories, that 2013 to 2018, I did and had an analysis that was done, and then Black Book put together a really cool graph that kind of highlighted what is the mix of our used vehicle retail listings in the nation, right? Completely anonymous, and no ambiguity, right? Most people don't realize this, that the breakdown is 20 to 30,000 inventory and 30,000 plus, close to 60% of all listings.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So the least unaffordable inventory price bands, 20 to 30,000 plus, is almost 60% of all listings in the marketplace today.
That's
now,
nice.
When you look at what is affordable in the marketplace and break it down, you see that under $10,000 is 10 to 11%, 10 to 15,000 is another 11-14% of the mix, and 15 to 20 is less than 10%. So the bottom three most needed categories has the lowest amount of listings, but here's the catch-22 of that. Those listings also tend to be found on independent dealerships, which we know that they don't have the best quality cars, higher mileage, rough, edgier units, right? Not typical for a franchise dealer. But I've been hearing for the last 3 weeks now, CPO, certified pre-owned, where dealers are now certifying vehicles with damage, which are not supposed to be, CPO certified, but they're starting to, because they were desperate to find good cars that they could say, look, this car it was rear-ended, but we can deem it's a safe vehicle for you to drive. Now it's certified. Whereas before pre-pandemic, we would have never thought about it.
That's nuts. Yeah, it is like, when you set over that stat, I was like, I didn't know it was the numbers on that. And it is so crazy. And then once again, going back to all of my friends that reach out and say, hey, we're in the market for a car. We're in the market for a car. Great. What's your price range? What are you paying right now? We have that conversation over and over. I know I'm repeating myself at this point, but this is the reason why, is that you are being priced out of the market. And heaven forbid you have a repair that needs to be done and you are making 150,000, which should be a very good income. But now you can barely afford a new car. And now you have a repair you got to do. That's now, $6,000 or $3,000 or $2,000, whatever it may be. Maybe it's $600. I mean, even I love Sunbit's great, having the ability to have a financial offer for service. That's great. Things like that. But just knowing, like, be in your consumer's shoes for 2 seconds to understand what they're going through. And you would think at this point, we're all going there. I mean, heck, it's every time I go to the grocery store, I was like, this just raised the price again. Like, what is going on? So, I mean, we're all in this together, but really do take a look and see, from a product, people and product.
Right. I just posted a vlog in my blog 2 weeks ago, last week, that the actual statistic that I was been looking for, I was finally able to find it. Mark Zandi, chief economist of Moody's Analytics, has identified a box of things that average consumer buys every month. That same box of things is now $734 more each month than it was 2 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And so now your monthly nut is $734 more, and you didn't get anything extra for it. Now add to the fact that every person who hasn't made student loan payment had to start making that in September. So that's a $400 or $500 payment on top of them paying another $734 a month. My prediction is a lot of crying before the end of the year. You want to hear and see that.
Not that we want that. Be very clear. Not that we want that.
Right. No, we don't want that. We don't want that at all. But it's been there, and we have the opportunity. I see a subprime boom coming for us.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked about the fact that there's been these vehicles that were purchased at a good price prior to everything going nutso. So do you expect that the influx of those off-lease vehicles to help stabilize car prices? And then what's your outlook on new car inventory recovery?
Well, another great question. Honestly, as I said, we didn't have enough new vehicles produced that could be both fleet leasing and consumer leasing. We had 2 to 3 years of very low penetration of both. So we won't see a whole lot of that coming back into the market right now. But to add to that is the OEs made changes to the leasing programs. The original leasing dealer, the grounding dealer, is the one that you have to take your lease back to. You have no other alternative. You can't even buy your lease out without going to the dealer first. Yep. So that essentially says that grounding dealer has first right to buy the vehicle. Not even you, it's the leasee.
Yeah.
Right. So that inventory won't make it much into the market, and it won't make that much of a dent.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's another one is that as you as well get the question, and this is even going back a year ago or so, and their leases were coming up right when everything was going nuts, and we just had that conversation of, do you like the car? First question is, do you like the car? Yeah, Brooke, I like it. Okay, great. Well, how much are you willing to go up for the exact same vehicle? Well, why would I have to go up? It's the same vehicle. I've been leasing this vehicle. It's the fourth one I've had. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter anymore. So we'd have that discussion and once you realize that they realize that, hey, I really like this vehicle. It's a good vehicle. What I'm going to have to pay is almost double or maybe 50% more. Okay. It's probably just best I buy it out, to your point. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing unfolds, to your point. I 100% agree.
Yeah. And the dealers have told us, the dealers say, look, I want to write you a check. I'll give you $5,000 and let me buy this vehicle.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yep. Yeah. So as we go through this whole journey here, customer loyalty is just completely tanked. You're seeing loyalty issues everywhere. And there's every stat I read, I was like, okay, now loyalty's dipped more. Oh, people aren't coming back to dealership. Oh, I'm like, it's just, we're in a loyalty mess right now. And as you know, our good friend Steve Apicella always says, we're in the repeat and referral business. So going back to that, what are the opportunities for dealers to strengthen relationships despite limited selection?
Honestly, I think the only differentiator is, are you a bring it to me dealer or are you a bite me dealer? How easy can you make my stressed out life? Right? It would just really, and that's how dealers need to look at it. My customers are stressed. I want to minimize that stress, because buying a vehicle still is like getting a root canal to a lot of consumers. So we've got to really reduce that level of friction, right? And that level of friction is done when you create an environment that everything I've been researching through my mobile app on my phone, you're validating for me. You're not treating me any differently or whatnot, right? And so as a bring it to me dealer, whether it's in sales or service, you're putting everything out there and you're earning the right to help educate that consumer so they can make an intelligent decision. Now, having said that, the old days of hard closing a consumer today, that's gone, in my opinion. Yeah, there's too much knowledge out there to get hard pressed into a close, especially if you go back and think about
it. It's still happening, but yes, it's on its way out. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Again, we had a large subsection from the upper leg, right? The K-shaped recovery. We have a massive. Right now, they're saying roughly 70% of the population is 650 or less.
That's crazy.
Deacon, right? Think about that.
Crazy.
Another
that is nuts.
Recent article said if you're making $75,000 or more, you can't afford a $400 car payment. So what we have to do is help educate our consumers with what they're being shown, what they're being taught. Like you just said, if you're at a 2% rate and you're paying $400 a month now. The average rate 6%. You're not going to be able to get into a light vehicle and have the same payment. It's just not going to happen,
No.
right? And the rates are different. We have to have that conversation. That's why I went back to incredible training with your teams to be able to engage with that kind of conversation. Engaging with the consumer on the level that they're at will make all the difference in the world. There's not a lot of dealers that are doing that today. Hence the reason why CarMax and Carvana are doing so well.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. I'm just going to say yes to that. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, say yes. So a little bit more on pricing here is that with the used car prices, they've created obviously affordability challenges. What should dealerships do to enhance their service operation as customers hold on to their vehicles longer? Because this is 100% impacting fixed ops, 100%.
Yeah, average age is 13 years, right? And if you look at the VIO report by Experian, I can send you that link as well. It's a phenomenal report. And when you really put your mind around it, average consumer has about 3 or 4 cars in their driveway, right? 2 might be paid for. And the other 2 are the ones that have the astronomical payments. They don't know what those cars are worth because they even thought about trying to sell that vehicle. So service that vehicle for them. Offer that free safety inspection in your local community, as I mentioned before. Get that inventory through your service department. Put a check writing offer and a repair request. You know, here's your options. You know, you got $5,000 worth of safety and repair work you should do, but I can also pay you $4,000 for your car. Which one you want to do? Oh, you don't have $5,000? You want to keep this car? Here's my partner, you know, a firm or PayPal or Service Refinance or whoever I'm using. They can get you pre-approved. Now you got paid for service. You are helping your consumers do what they want to do. And when they're ready to do business with you, they'll come back to you.
Yep. They're coming right back to you.
You just repair, repeat.
Yep. Repeat referral business, baby. I mean, it's between Tolly and Steven. Like, they both are just, I mean, they're so great at voicing that message. There's a lot of people as well. There are other people as well. I'm not aggressive. You all are great as well. So I want to go, like, think forward here. Like, what is driving the crisis the most on us? Because yes, is there inflation? Yes, there's inflation. Is there this? Yes. Do we mark up prices because my competitor down the street has other prices, other cars marked up? Yes. Well, now I'm going to do service. I'm going to increase my labor rates. I'm going to do all these different things. But the question becomes, is what's driving the crisis most, and what is the single best factor behind the inventory shortage?
Well, high interest rate market first, right, is really driving the affordability crisis. Because what 2% rate, that means I could buy a $26,000 vehicle, get closer to a $400 payment, you know, versus now if I'm lucky enough to buy a 3-year-old car with average miles for 35,000 miles, you know, then, and pay $22,000, that's 60 months at 6%, I'm at 400, right? Give or take. So that's the first thing is the high interest rate. The second is the low availability of quality. And I can't emphasize the word of quality. Average miles for the year, in inventory. And so dealers are paying for that. Now, if you take a really quick analysis, and I recommended it last week, any dealer can go to autotrader.com in the local market, make sure they got their zip code set, and shop by payment. Well, in order to understand how to shop by payment, what is your local market? What is your community? I posted a vlog first week of last month, with links that said average cities, average incomes. Mm-hmm. You can dial down your local community and know exactly what your community is what their incomes are. Now match your inventory to what those incomes are. Now remember, that's gross. You know, if the average median income today is $75,000, that means that their net take home is probably 40.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that you got to really think about that, and dealers have to align inventory for that. Barring government interference or another black swan event, which we just had with Israel, dealers who have mastered acquiring inventory to meet what I call the subprime boom, inventory that meets the subprime and near prime market, and can have that educational conversation with those consumers who were not used to being treated this way, not used to those kind of rates. But if I can help them understand why, then I win compared to everyone else.
Amen. Amen to that, Paul. There's so, like, the amount of knowledge that in such a short time that you just dropped on every single person in here is just freaking nuts. Everyone, this is probably one of those episodes you're going to want to go back, re-listen to it, rewatch it, just because there's so much information in this. And Paul, man, this is just I can't believe we're already here, but we are already at that point where it is time for the right.
Thanks, Brand.
So first and foremost, as everyone can see, if you're watching and if you're on audio, you're going to have to go click on the link. But if you're watching, we've got Paul's personalized link here. How can everyone get in touch with you and how can they find you?
I only use LinkedIn as my sole social media account. I don't mess with any of the others. It's just too much noise, right? So LinkedIn, easy to find there, and all my blogs information is there. And then my second is my cell, 864-238-1234. I've had that number for business purposes for over 30 years now. So everyone I know has it, and everyone I know on LinkedIn has it. So call me, text me, email me, message me. I'll do my best to get back to you.
Yeah, and you've got a very smart man here talking. So ask him, reach out to him, pick his brain, whatever you need to do. But definitely reach out to this man. So name of the show is Facts, Not Feelings. So whether it's in your personal life or in your professional life, how are you differentiating facts from feelings?
Me? Well, if I have an emotion about something, I ask myself why. But then I go back and I look at the data. You know, what do the numbers tell me? What is the cause and effect? One of the best lessons I ever learned was by Dr. Stephen Covey, that the majority of the people have a disconnect whenever cause and effect is distanced by time and space. There's no correlation. People fail to have that correlation. Those who pay attention realize if I make this move or decision today, as you said, consequences come later.
Yes.
Will I have that later? So that's how I look at things. I look at, if I make a decision today, what are the consequences? I made that decision 2 weeks ago. What are the consequences today?
Amen. It's so true. All right. What is something that may surprise our audience or maybe that most people wouldn't know about you?
Most people wouldn't know about me that I'm two things. I'm an active outdoor person. I love being outdoors, and I love dancing.
That would surprise me. I saw that. I was like, whoa, hold on. What? Is there a specific type of dancing or is it all dancing?
All dancing.
All dancing. Okay.
Mhm.
Has this been a lifelong thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoy it very much.
That is awesome. Okay. Next time, at some point, we'll actually see each other in person. I'm going to see some of these dance moves on with the same. That's pretty remarkable. That's really, really cool. Really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's go with, what is your favorite car?
I have on my wall behind me is a 2022 Corvette LT3 convertible. When I finished custom building it, right, it was white and I had a nice blue stripe on it. I'm like, man, that reminds me of something. The way it looked with the top down and whatnot. And as a young kid, I used to watch Go Speed Racer. I designed my Corvette from memory, feeling, right? I like the way this looks, it ended up being as close to the Mark 8 as I could get.
That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I think we all just kind of dated ourselves there with Speed Racer, but phenomenal. Love to go Speed Racer. Speed Racer is awesome. I was just like, he just turned out Speed Racer. This is amazing.
Right. We did date ourselves.
Oh, it's so awesome. Well, Paul, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show today. So much information. Everyone, please, this will be one of those that you've got, like I said before, you're going to probably have to go back and re-listen to it. Maybe stop, pause, slow down, because you put it on YouTube on way too fast of a speed or podcast on way too fast of speed. Slow it down because there's so much knowledge that was dropped here. Paul, I cannot thank you enough for being on the show and joining me here today. And with that, everyone, find a way to serve today, find a way to help, and just do good in the world today, whether that is opening a car door for your friend, a colleague, or whatever it may be, or just a simple smile. Just find a way to be the joy in someone's life today. And with that, Paul, we're going to get out of here. Everyone, have a wonderful day, and we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you, Brooke. I appreciate you.